Sure, as a shifter, we are going to be spending the bulk of our time in our animal form, but that doesn't mean we can or should neglect our equipment selection. Hello there everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire, here to bring you the next episode of our first edition Pathfinder Shifter Guide, today taking a look at the equipment selection you're going to want to go with. Now, given the way just the base form of this class is set up with the various minor forms for your various animal aspects, giving enhancement bonuses to your stats, this does mean that a lot of equipment that might otherwise be highly recommended really doesn't end up making the cut or really end up being useful for you. There are still some interesting options, and you're going to want to learn to where to put your hard-earned coin to actually get equipment that will give you the best bang for your buck overall. But before we get into all of that, if you're new here to the channel, then go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. Or if you've already gone on ahead and listed yourself on such an incredible roster of legendary heroes, then go on down to hit the like button and share the video far and wide. But now, let's actually start getting into equipment overall. And actually, the first bit that I'd recommend isn't actually equipment, but it's an enchantment that you can get put on your natural attacks. And that's Greater Magic Fang, or even just Magic Fang, if that's what you can afford. Now, you touch a living target creature to give a +1 enhancement bonus to attack and damage. This can affect a slam, bite, fist, or other natural weapon. Greater Magic Fang gives a +1 for every 4 caster levels enhancement bonus, or a +1 bonus to all natural weapons. Now, those are the Magic Fang and Greater Magic Fang spells, but the nice thing is that these can be made permanent. Do you have access to them? No. Do you know somebody that does? Probably, or at least you can put in that request with your DM like, hey, this is something I want to do. This is something I need to do if I'm going to be able to keep pace with everybody else. Let me find somebody that I can get this enchantment from so that my natural weapons can get bonuses overall to help keep pace. Now, you do have your Shifter's Claws ability, and they do start counting as different material types, which actually does a lot to help as well as magic, but still you're going to want that +1 bonus to hit and damage. That's gonna really help you kick this build into, well, as overdrive as it can get. This is going to knock it up just a couple of notches better. You're still gonna be behind the curve in terms of competing with fighters, barbarians, paladins, but still, any last bit of edge that you can give yourself is going to be important. Now, the next item also fulfills a similar role, and that's the Amulet of Mighty Fists. Now, this can cost 4,000 gold pieces at a +1 bonus, or up to an incredibly lofty 100,000 gold pieces for a +5 bonus. This gives either a +1 or +5 enhancement bonus, or melee weapon enhancements that can go on natural attacks. Enhancement bonuses from these enchantments count towards the limit and market value. They don't give enhancement bonuses to attacks though, so Greater Magic Fang is still going to be an important enchantment to get made permanent on your claws. But an Amulet of Mighty Fists opens up options for you to add effects like Holy or Lawful, or whatever types of enchantments you're going to need to really keep doing a great amount of damage to your targets. And just imagine, you have a +4 bonus from Greater Magic Fang made permanent on your claws. You're in your dire tiger form. You've grappled the target. You're using the rake ability, and it's an evil target. You have the Holy aligned enchantment on your claws, and you're just raking through them. That's tons of damage that you're going to be able to pour onto the target right there. So definitely worth getting. Though, again, at 100,000 gold pieces, the +5 version is probably not going to be something you buy. If anything, that's more likely to be a piece of equipment that you get over the course of adventuring. Now, next we want to pick up armor, and the best armor that we're able to pick up is hide armor. and that is only going to cost you a paltry 15 gold pieces, which is nice. This gives you a +4 bonus to your armor class, allows up to a max of a +4 dexterity bonus, but does incur a -3 armor class penalty on certain skills like swim, climb, acrobatics. And also you are limited to a 20-foot movement speed, but not terrible overall. In all honesty, the bonuses to your defense are going to be pretty worth it. Now, some enhancements to think about getting put onto the armor would be something like Wild, which is a +3 bonus, and it's super expensive. So another thing that's more likely to be a bit of loot or gear that you acquire adventuring, but if you do have a chance to buy it, it's going to be worth it, because this lets you retain armor and enhancement bonuses to your armor class when you're in wild shape, which is going to be incredibly useful, because a large form like a dire tiger does take a little bit of a penalty to armor class. I believe it's only a -1 for being large sized, but still, you're not exactly going to be rocking the highest armor class bonus overall. So whatever you can do to help boost that and mitigate any penalties you take is going to be useful. Also, energy resistance is going to be important. Now, this doesn't cost any enhancement bonuses and counting towards that maximum of a +10 limit, but it is expensive at 18,000 gold pieces. But this allows you to choose cold, fire, electricity, sonic, or acid damage. The armor will absorb 10 points of damage of every attack of that energy type. So, even before you apply any saves you may have made, you're cutting off 10 points of damage from that. And then lastly, we have Determination, which is also expensive at 30,000 gold pieces, but it's worth every last copper you might pour towards it. Once a day, when you hit 0 hit points, this automatically casts a Breath of Life spell on the wearer, which is a good boost to healing for you to take on and get back up and back into the fight, or at the very least, back up and in a better position for somebody to come over and heal you and keep you around a while longer. Survival is always worth putting money towards. Next, though, we have the Bestial Rags, costing you 8,000 gold pieces, so not the most expensive thing we've seen. These are tied to a specific aspect. In fact, the rags are usually made from the hide of that specific creature. This allows a shifter to use that aspect's minor and major forms for 5 minutes. If a shifter already has that aspect, they can use it as if they were 2 levels higher. So being 2 levels higher, shifting into your dire tiger form would be incredibly useful. But maybe there's a shifter form that you really liked but couldn't just select, or whatever the case may be. Maybe you want to pick up something that's a bit more mechanically effective, or something that's a bit more evocative of what you want for your character. This is a great way of doing that, and adds just a little bit extra utility that you might otherwise miss out on. Certainly the frog aspect came up with Captain Crank, and bam! I've jumped into the middle of the video when you least expected me to interrupt me and also rip off the spiffing Brit. There's a quick correction that needs to be offered up here. When I mentioned that Captain Crank brought up the power of the frog form, it was not Captain Crank, it was Devon Steed. Apologies for that. Captain Crank did comment on it, saying the power of the frog is real. And it is, because, using the frog's threatened area and also going with a trip build and combat patrol and everything, it offered up a great deal of utility and area control that was just staggeringly good. So that's something to make note of there. It's just apologies for that. Devon Steed and Captain Crank have both been regular commenters lately. Thank you to both of you for that, by the way. Your insights, corrections, your knowledge, absolutely incredibly valued to have 2 other such esteemed lore masters attending and being frequent viewers and commenters here at the Nexus Librum of the Gamer's Den. Now, back to the regular video. It allowed an extension of reach and is incredibly powerful. Massively, massively powerful. Now, next up is the Cloak of Resistance. It's a classic, it's great for every class, but for those of you who may not have seen my breakdown of this before, this can cost you anywhere from 1,000 to a spendy 25,000 gold pieces, but it gives a +1 to +5 resistance bonus to all of your saves, Fortitude, Reflex, and Will. That's great to have. That is going to do a lot for you, and as I said earlier, putting any amount of money that you can towards defense is going to be worth it every time. And putting it towards your saves, absolutely worth it. Then we have Rings of Protection, costing you anywhere from 2,000 to an incredible 50,000 gold pieces. This gives a +1 to +5 deflection bonus to your armor class, which again, absolutely huge. Whatever you can do to boost your armor class to make you that much harder to hit is going to be very useful for you. Then, moving on from the Rings of Protection, we have the Headband of Inspired Wisdom. This is going to be a critical piece of equipment since this affects your ability to wild shape. This will cost anywhere from 4,000, 16,000, or 36,000 gold pieces, but it gives either a +2, +4, or +6 bonus to your wisdom score, depending on which expensive version you jumped for. So that is also huge. Again, this affects your ability to wild shape. That is going to be massively useful for you and give you a great deal of utility, since your various aspect forms also give you a fair bit of utility. Then we have the Wand of Cure Light Wounds. This is something every character class should pick up, even if not all of them are able to use it, because if you have one on hand, that's extra healing to go around. So you give this to the Bard, the Cleric, whoever's able to make the wand work. This is healing that they can dispense around, and everybody chipping in, or at least every other character chipping in. If there's 4 or 5 of you, if 2 or 3 of you have Wands of Cure Light Wounds, then you're spreading that cost around a little bit more. So definitely worth considering. The next is a classic that no adventurer should go without. It's the Handy Haversack. It only costs 2,000 gold pieces. It has 2 side pouches that hold up to 2 cubic feet or 20 pounds, 1 center pouch that holds 8 cubic feet or up to 80 pounds, and this allows you to draw items without provoking attacks of opportunity. Now, the metric breakdown for that, if you're interested, is 0.06 cubic meters or 9 kilograms, or 0.226 cubic meters or 36 kilograms. So that's for the side pouches or the center pouch, respectively. So that's a significant amount of space for you to be able to hold there. It's like a lesser version of a bag of holding, but the most important thing is that you can draw items without provoking attacks of opportunity. Still a move action, but not taking extra damage when you need to get that critical potion out to heal yourself up or remove whatever other awful, debilitating effect might have befallen you. Absolutely worth it. Again, any money spent towards your defense is money well spent. Then we go on to the Shirt of Immolation, and this one's an interesting one. 8,000 gold pieces is what it's going to cost you, but while you're wearing it, when grappling, this shirt bursts into flames and deals 1d6 plus 10 fire damage every round to anyone grappling the wearer for up to 10 rounds per day. Now, that is handy, that is useful. The reason why I don't rate the damage very high is because the damage isn't bad, and the fact that this happens automatically without you having to activate it, and it's just extra damage on top of everything else you're doing, is great. The fact that it's fire damage, though, is incredibly limiting because fire resistance and fire immunity are the most common element type of resistance or immunity in Pathfinder, in several games, honestly. So that limits it a bit, but there are plenty of targets that still are not resistant or outright immune to fire damage, so that you can still get a good deal of use out of this. But the more interesting thing to me is the possibilities that this opens up, because part of making this item requires the spell Fire Shield. Well, Why not make a Shirt of Electrocution, substitute out Fire Shield for Shocking Grasp, or whatever elemental damage type you want to throw out there. So you can go with acid damage, electric damage, frost or cold damage. There's so many things that you could do with this that really open up the field for you and can make things very interesting, and also just adds just a bit more variety to the game. And it's just a matter of asking your DM, hey, is there a X version of the Shirt of Immolation, whatever damage type you're interested in. Chances are it won't really be all that hard for them to draw it up. Just do the exact same stats here, but with just a different element type for the damage. Now, like I said before, this does it for up to 10 rounds per day. Those don't have to be consecutive. And I would ask your DM if this is something that you could have a greater degree of control over, because activating would be as easy as just, speaking a command word, a free action. But, just talk with your DM and see how exactly they want this to work. Next, we have the Minor Cloak of Displacement. 24,000 gold pieces is what this is going to cost. So again, expensive, but this grants a 20% miss chance for you that is just continuous per the Blur spell, which is just great. That's 1 out of every 5 attacks missing you. At least, on those mathematical averages, which is great. Again, what I've been saying and harping on this whole time is any money spent towards defense is money well spent. Just imagine they're swinging at you while you're grappled with a target and you've got this effect going. Possibilities are endless. And then, lastly, we have the Cracked Dusty Rose Prism Ioun Stone. This only costs you 500 gold pieces, but it grants a +1 competence bonus to initiative. It's pretty much the only competence bonus to initiative that I'm really aware of overall. Everything else being things like racial bonuses, an untyped feat bonus from improved initiative, things like that. So the fact that this can stack with so many different things and is that little extra boost towards making it more likely that you can act first in the initiative order is great. And it's only 500 gold pieces. That's, a couple of low-level adventures at most. So that's going to be an easy grab for you to pick up if you can come across it. Again, it's one of those things where it depends a little bit on the conceit of the DM, but this is still going to be incredibly invaluable for you if you can acquire it. So definitely keep your eyes open for it. Now, this is not all of the equipment available. There's certainly so much more. The shifter is proficient with shields, so you could pick up something like a buckler. That wouldn't be too terribly expensive and would still leave your offhand free for making claw attacks, especially if you're using multi-attack. But you lose that bonus once you shift into your wild shape form, so it just all depends a little bit. So bear those things in mind. And certainly, again, there's so much equipment out there. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Did you like today's video? Did you dislike it? Let me know what other equipment you might recommend for a shifter overall. Boots of Speed come to mind, being able to increase your movement speed and just get in close that much faster. Certainly very useful and would offset the movement penalty imposed by the hide armor. So definitely let me know your thoughts down below. And remember, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamers Den. But with all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore and Storyteller Extraordinaire. Thank you all so very much for your time, and you all have yourselves a good night.